All right, we have talked a bit already about expectations, but we want to go deeper into this. What are the expectations on both sides? The Americans towards the Europeans and the Europeans to the new administration.
Yeah, let us maybe begin with Obama's administration's expectations towards the Europeans. And as much as Europeans are in this honeymoon phase with the new president, they will have a rude awakening when Obama actually comes over and is asking them to contribute much more to some of the burning global issues. And of course, on top of Obama's mind in terms of foreign policy is Afghanistan. He's already said he wants to commit more troops to Afghanistan, and he's expecting NATO to chip in. So, and of course, it's going to be much more difficult for Europeans to say no to Obama than it was saying no to Bush. So there's going to be, within NATO, tensions, debate on what Europeans can do more to support the Americans in that aspect. Then there's also the trade issue. I mean, there's been some nervousness in Canada about the U.S. wanting maybe to renegotiate NAFTA and sort of enforce labor standards more rigorously. But from a European perspective, it's about the revival of the door around for international trade negotiations. And I think here we can expect the Americans to be much tougher in terms of looking at their interest. We will have a democratic House that will have a much more protectionist streak in those international trade talks. So I would expect, after the honeymoon, some very tough negotiations, actually.
The question is always, the U.S. president and any leader can always only focus on one thing, they say. So for me, the big question is, we're all talking about different expectations, and I agree that the war and the trade issue are the two big ones. But with the economic crisis being the overarching one big issue that has to be addressed first, the interesting question is, when will these demands about the war really come out? Because I completely agree that there will be demands put on the table, and with Hillary Clinton as an appointee, I'm sure there will be a lot of leadership on that front. But the question is, where will the emphasis be? Which demands come first? And can the protectionism really stand, given that in this economic crisis we have to work together, or will it lead to further retrenchment? I guess I'm not quite so sure how the two will play off each other, and how protectionism really relates to the economic crisis as it stands right now.
It's certainly true that any president, any executive anywhere has to prioritize certain things, and so you're right that there's going to be a bit of a battle, but I'm not sure that it's an either or, right? But there are certainly trade-offs. And Obama is going to feel the need for definitely the economy, number one, the economy, but also healthcare, immigration, education, all kinds of domestic concerns that will take his attention away from foreign concerns. On foreign concerns, I think Burkhardt is absolutely right. Strengthening NATO is one of the planks of the campaign. During the election. And what strengthening NATO means is Obama is going to ask NATO members to contribute more troops and more resources and more money. And that's a certain way of how you strengthen alliances, right? But that's going to require shared sacrifices, I guess. And I think you're absolutely right. Under Bush, Europeans and others could easily say, well, you know what, the U.S. is weird, we're not going to contribute. If you have a leader with the democratic legitimacy that Obama does, it's going to be much harder to say no. And that's not true not only for Europe, but it's true for China, it's true for Japan, it's true for other countries around the world also.
Yeah, and I think we're also going to see this on Iran, which is another burning, issue for the new administration. And I think on the positive side, though, I think it's going to break a lot of ice. It's going to make such a tremendous difference in terms of the atmosphere of transatlantic relations that we have a new administration, and you couldn't have picked a better dream team from the European perspective. Again, there's a gap between expectations and reality. But thinking about Obama and Hillary, two politicians that are well known in Europe and that command tremendous respect as well, I think it's going to do a lot of good in terms of setting the right tone, creating fora, platforms for true dialogue. And the Europeans, if you give them the feeling we take you seriously, we want your support, you're part of this, I think that can go a long way towards soothing over maybe some of the roadblocks that are certainly on the way.
But of course, it's not just about Europe and North America, because if we're talking about Iran, then we're talking about the relationship and the impact that Obama will have on the Middle East and on the Middle Eastern file. And that, I think, really then brings a whole bunch of other issues to the table, where Europeans have been working hard to try to bring about a solution in Palestine, and they've been talking to the Iranian leadership. But I think the fact that Obama has a higher, credibility in the Arab world, I think that's also something that I think Europeans could capitalize on, because they've been doing a lot of the negotiating on the ground. But Obama's credibility added to that, hopefully, me being the eternal optimist, will bring some more conclusions in these issues, or possibly new alternatives. I think that's an interesting thing to consider.
Absolutely. It's definitely, we need to look at other parts of the world. And as an exercise, I was thinking, okay, where is Obama concerned? And so I was thinking Iran, I was thinking Iraq, I was thinking Russia, right? Let's not forget Russia. Africa figures prominently in terms of the campaign literature. India, Pakistan right now, right? Okay, so essentially once you start Latin America, once you start going down the list, there's no part of the world that isn't affected by the Obama presidency, right? And so this is maybe because of the U.S. superpower status, but the expectations placed on an American president are huge everywhere around the world. So whether Europe will figure prominently in that, I'm not so sure. To a certain extent, Obama might just continue the Bush policy of saying, well, Europe is relatively stable, and we know what they're going to do. Let's focus on the hot spots. And Europe's not going to hopefully have any hot spots.
We have to.
But of course, Europe needs to contribute.
That
will be the question
that
we're going to be watching.
I'm sure we could go on and on. Unfortunately, we have to come to an end here. I want to thank the participants, and I want to thank our viewers. If you're interested in more details about the Canadian Centre for German and European Studies, please go to our website, which you will find on your screens. Thank you.
Thank you.